Broadcasting from the foremost state of Oregon and FEMA Region 10 is your host, Joshua Michael. If the road were easy, everyone would take it. We don't shy away from challenges, we dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the time of censorship, non-compliance is key. From an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael. It's time to unmask the truth and expose the lies. The occupied forces do not want you to hear this broadcast. Breaking through the censorship and delivering raw, unedited content. It's Joshua Michael with non-compliant America. It's better to die on your feet than live on your knees. We can't continue to be silent. Your voice will set us free.
All right, welcome, folks. Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Today is September 27th, 2025. And there is a jam-packed day today. I want to get more into the Charlie Kirk situation, what's been unfolding on the internet. There's some very interesting revelations that are happening, a continuation of the FBI cover-up. We now have Tyler Robinson's dad coming out stating that he never said those things. He never got his son to turn himself in, which is really interesting. Candace is still unturning stones and receiving a lot of heat for that, but she seems to be one of the only ones on top of all the internet people, the slew of people that are continuing on this story. It's very interesting on how much has been unfolding in regards to what the official story was, the initial story was with the FBI, on how quickly things are shifting. Kash Patel has been forced to respond to that. But there's also a lot of other shakeup stuff going on. As you know, James Comey has officially formally been indicted now. And Trump says there's more to come. This is interesting because we're watching the Democrats and the mainstream media organizations absolutely spiral out of control in regards to this, calling it an abuse of power and all the things, basically all the things that were being done to Trump, he's now rightfully doing, trying to expose the fact that they were illegally doing these things to him and trying to go through the proper due process in order to get the proper charges. As you know, 2 charges have formally been filed. 3 were officially filed, but only 2 carried the sniff test in regards to the grand jury for the Comey case. So that's super interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I also want to talk about some other things going on in Oregon. There's an interesting report that came in the other day. And in Springfield, Oregon, they've officially put cameras to monitor and track you, just like communist China, in Springfield, Oregon. And there's a news broadcast that I'm going to try to play. I don't have my studio completely set up right now yet, so my playback things aren't working correctly, but I might take a pause and try to get that loaded up for you. But it's super interesting because the continuation toward the Agenda 2030, the complete overgrid of the system, and the digital gulag is what I've been calling it for such a long time, the digital space of complete capture of monitoring of your rights and day-to-day activity down to your bank accounts, everything else, as you know, the Real ID system infrastructure that's going to directly tie into your bank account, which then will be able to allow the government to turn things on and off. Should you be deemed a quote-unquote anti-Semite or hate speech like Pam Bondi was trying to roll through, things like that, we're giving the government too much control, and I think it's extremely important that we continue to push and expose this nonsense this anti-American garbage that is being pushed on everybody. And I don't care if you're from Oregon or from Washington or from California. There's still a lot of really good people here. And you guys, it's your job now to stand up and speak out against this crap and go and get in front of these faces, write them letters, write them emails. If you don't have the time, if you're working 2 jobs, trying to just make ends meet, trying to just survive, I understand. I understand you don't have time to go work day shift hours when these guys are down at the Marble Nut House passing all this crap and putting it all through. But at what point do we have to get to until we are done with this surveillance state garbage, this oversight, this overreach? They're emboldening everything. The Salem parking system that they have down in downtown is a freaking joke. Why do we put up with that? We got rid of free parking. Now everybody's got to pay. That's garbage. There's this post the other day of the chief of police for the city of Salem. The other day, he was complaining about needing a bigger budget because he didn't have enough money, and he wanted more officers because, you know, we're an eighth of the size of Portland, but we have a tenth the size of the budget, or some crap that he was saying on there. And it was absolutely absurd. The fact of the matter is they just built that stupid new police station downtown. Probably could have been way more fiscally responsible with that money, but they didn't have a problem spending that money and blowing that money out. Now all of a sudden the chicken's coming home to roost. Bad business operations. Usually, if you're an operating private business, you're going to have to budget for different things. But these guys just have a blank check and they're like, yeah, whatever, 24 million, no problem. Yeah, let's build it. We'll just increase taxes, whether people want it or not, to be able to subsidize this new beautiful police station that we have that is way over the top. Way over the top. Completely unnecessary. Now, maybe somebody internally could come back to me and tell me and explain to me why that was a necessity, why we needed to bulldoze something and construct a brand new facility that looks like a futuristic freaking thing with cameras all around it and all this stuff. I mean, you don't need these glass, beautiful buildings. I guarantee you there could have been a way better budget to build that thing than they did. But then the guy's complaining about not having any money and needing more officers. What are you talking about? You need more officers. I can't throw a stick without seeing state police, Marion County sheriffs, and City of Salem police on the same street. I'll see 10 or 15 of them a day, and I'm hardly even on the road. So what are you talking about? You need more officers. You need more money. What about all these homeless people that are just overtaking everything, and they're everywhere? Oh, that's not our property. We can't do anything about it. Everything else. Well, how do other states deal with it? And what are you guys doing besides harassing working people and giving them speeding tickets and setting up speed traps everywhere and entrapping people? When are you arresting these people? And when we actually need you, oh, we can't get involved. That's a civil matter. Talking about when my son's mom, literally on my parenting time, in the court order, won't release him to me. The police show up. Oh, sorry, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Well, you got a court order. Oh, it's a civil matter. Okay, but you can call Marion County. Marion County will come enforce it. Then you call dispatch. Dispatch is like, hey, we won't get a hold of Marion County. That's a Salem municipal police department issue because it's in the city of Salem. Okay. So what's all this for? Where's the justice? Where is the law and order? You guys are supposed to be public servants, yet you are literally only writing speeding tickets to everybody and harassing everybody. So don't complain to me about your job if you're a garbage man and you're complaining that people need to take better care of their garbage because it smells and it doesn't quite fit very well. And you'd like everybody to seal their garbage so you don't have to smell it. You see how ridiculous that sounds? Do a better job. Get creative. Have some outreach. And if you're having problems with all these illegals going on, why don't you call the Trump administration? I'm sure they would be glad to help you. Speaking of the Trump administration, we're seeing a lot of pressure now being put on with Portland. As you know, Donald Trump just announced that he's going after the Antifa wing in Portland, which, if you do your research and you understand, Antifa in Portland, the Rose City Antifa, is one of the main wings of Antifa. And they're being harbored and everything else. Of course, the Trump administration knows that. So they are starting to send them because, as you know, Antifa is now designated a terrorist organization, which they have been. They have been. Finally, we got somebody with some balls to stand up to these, what would you call them, a fifth branch of government? You think these are just a bunch of radical kids that aren't getting help from CIA contractor groups or sub-corporate agencies that are funding their NGOs money to be able to allow these things to operate? Where have we seen this before? I don't know. Ukraine. There's a great documentary you guys should all look up right now. It's called The Economic Hitman. And it breaks down how CIA contractor groups since the 50s would actually go to these smaller countries, create a semi-color revolution or some type of revolution. Said it'd only need a couple $1,000,000 to do it. And it was a lot cheaper than trying to hit these guys head on. So what they would do is they would create these groups, these radical groups, kind of like Antifa, and start creating a movement to be able to publicly push out the leadership of that country. Then they'd host an election. They'd have their new radical come in. They would install the new dictator, which then would pawn off their resources for the American corporations. And this happened all over the world. Why do you think some of these countries hate us so much? Because we've literally had our thumb on their neck or a boot on their neck for years. So yes, we're the best house in a bad neighborhood. There's still some really bad elements of our country. There's still some really good people in this country. But if you take a step back and you wonder how these terrorist organizations, such as Antifa, or even Black Lives Matter, or ISIS, or Al-Qaeda, or any of these other crazy groups, quote unquote, that we are so terrified of, wonder where they come from. Who's organizing them? How are they so organized? How do they have such a deep reach of information? You should really ask yourself that. So the fact in the matter is they're supposed to be in McMinnville today, by the way, protesting against the Air Force at the Air Museum. Antifa is supposed to be showing up there, and it's actually pretty ridiculous in the sense that they're protesting old airplanes because they were Army airplanes at some point, and they're against war. So now they're going to be picking on a bunch of old people and little kids that just want to go see cool big airplanes and Spruce Goose and stuff like that. Like, that is the ridiculousness of these people. I don't know if you guys saw it either. Ice Cube, the rapper, had his tour bus in Portland last week, and they firebombed it just because the tour bus said ice on the side. The tour bus said Ice Cube on the side, but since it said the word ice, they were so triggered and they firebombed his tour bus. Now, they're not all that stupid because you got to remember, they are being controlled and managed from somebody. And the better question is who? We'll be right back on the other side.
You can find me in the pits with the gladiators. haters. I'm a wild one, laughing in the face of danger. Up against all odds, lot of speculators. I survive skin thick like an alligator.
All right, guys, I'm back. Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Make sure to follow me on X at NonCompliantAF. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? I really want to know. Just let me know. I'm on the pulse. I'm looking at this stuff all the time as things are unfolding. And so it's really exciting. Trump's taking things in the right direction. Now, I do think that he might be missing some things, as of anybody would, and he's being curated information in regards to the Charlie Kirk murder and assassination, because there's been some interesting things that have come up on the internet in the past week, and I want to bring you guys up to speed. Now, we need some context, and now keep in mind, I am just simply speculating. I'm not saying that this is actually the fact, but we have to explore every rock that we can, because we're obviously not being told the story. In fact, we're not even being told the truth. Even though Kash Patel's in there, even though Dan Bongino's in there, which they vowed to go shake things up, tell us the truth, do all this, do all that. But the fact of the matter is they're not. So either the system is much bigger for them to be able to manage, or there's bad actors in there, or they're fighting against both of that. It's very hard to find trusting people, because you got to think about this too. It's kind of like police officers too. You could be a private contractor, kind of do the same stuff as a policeman, but make 3 times the money. So we're not really getting top shelf people that are taking these careers. Same in government. You know, unless you're Nancy Pelosi, you can be, day trading during the day and making millions and millions and millions of dollars by being a government official and having these inside dealer trader things and just put it all in your husband's name. But for the most part, most people in government, it's not a very desirable job. And to top that all off, which is why the media has been so aggressive for the past 10 years in regards to anybody around Trump's circle, puts a lot of pressure on them, makes it a very difficult job. So I commend all the people that are actually trying to do the right thing and reinstall justice within the system, have some integrity, operate accordingly, just have a good career. And, they're being harassed in so many different ways. So I can understand how difficult the job would be, even for a Kash Patel or Dan Bongino, because they were essentially public figures beforehand. So I'm sure it just made it that much worse. But you know what you signed up for. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the garbage man earlier. If you can't handle the smell, maybe you should go work at Starbucks. But there's consequences for that. You're going to only make so much money. You got to do this, blah, 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 blah. Everything has pros and cons. And if you're the police chief and you can't manage the budget and you can't manage your officers and get them focused to actually fight crime, then maybe you should find a different job. And maybe you shouldn't just lean on and put more stress and pressure on the already overstressed, overstrenuous public that's barely able to survive and make ends meet, and they're having a difficult time as it is. You don't just get to wave your pen and potentially throw more people into poverty. You don't get to do that. I'm sorry. We elected you. You didn't elect us. That is what the American system should be about. That is the entire premise of voting, is being able to vote these people out when they're not doing and bending to the will of the public. There's been such a disconnect between our current government, the Tina Kotek BS organization, and the public is so disconnected. They don't even care. They're trying to just be our dictators, which is why they're installing these surveillance cameras in freaking Springfield. And I guarantee you, that's only a news organization that's decided to report on it. I guarantee you it's happening elsewhere. I guarantee you. And so what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the future? How much surveillance are we going to put up with? How much red tape are we going to have to be able to like put a fence up to where we have to get permission from the municipalities to build a fence in our own backyard? Do you really own your property? Do you really own your property, or you just kind of be told that you own your property? Because really, they're the masters, right? So we have to think about that stuff. I personally believe there should be a revolution, and we should all just not pay taxes to these criminals until they're able to actually serve the duty of what we want and operate accordingly. We just shouldn't pay taxes anymore. And I don't care if the government falls apart at that point, because it's already not functioning. It's already not operating. It's already not working for us. How inconvenient that now every time just to go park downtown and grab some food or something like that, now you got to whip out your phone, get on this stupid app that doesn't work, and what? Pay $2 to go get a $10 meal. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. And yeah, it does help with the traffic, everything else. But you know what? There was nothing wrong with the traffic. They're just trying to get more money. You see how this works? Do you know why they're trying to get more money? Because they just put a new Parks and Rec building down there. And they've been spending money on the Capitol and working on the Capitol for over 5 years. That's what they need all the money for. To make sure if there's an earthquake, then all the people in the Capitol will be safe. What about the roads? What about all the potholes in the roads? What about like the streets to be cleaned up? It seems like anytime they're doing any work, they're just putting in more camera monitoring infrastructure. They're putting in more photo sensors everywhere to make sure that you're not speeding through the intersection. Now, granted, I know I've seen a lot of wrecks that have happened on intersections. A lot of people are on their phone, which is a terrible thing. It's very, very distracting. And it's unsafe. Yes, absolutely. But you can be walking down the street and get struck by lightning. Does that mean we get rid of sidewalks so people don't have to walk anymore? The fact of the matter is you're giving up your freedom for a false sense of security, which essentially is only leading to more control. We're going to get more into the Charlie Kirk stuff on the other side. Plus, I want to talk about what's going on in Britain on how they're rolling out a digital currency system and what the guy had to say about that. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, folks. Third segment, Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Thank you very much for joining me. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to dive in a little bit more of this Charlie Kirk thing, because I think it's really important that we keep pushing and overturning these rocks, because as we know, we can't trust the FBI. As we know, we can't trust the DOJ. We can't trust anything, even though these good things are happening and the James Comey is indicted. That's great. Finally, right? Finally, after 8 years, Trump is kind of getting vindicated in some form or fashion. Yet, there's still just some interesting things. And I think Pam Bondi is on the chopping block. I anticipate she will be removed very likely in the next week or two. Now, why do I think that? I think Trump gave her about 4 months ago, but she's just showing to be so incompetent that we just, heads got to roll. We have to move. The Democrats have already vowed that if they get back into power, they're arresting any and all MAGA supporters, any and all Trump supporters, anybody that exercises free speech, anybody that questions the official narrative, anything, everybody. Just imagine the Joe Biden 4 years times 1,000. Because even though that Trump is in office, they're still putting in the infrastructure to monitor and control you. And with the AI grid, the AI systems, the police departments are getting AI on being able to track people down, find information, do things, kind of things that obscure the line. Because here's a better question. If you ask AI for something and then AI actually goes and penetrates your rights, Is that the individual that initiated the request, or is then the liability put on the robot that actually hacked and broke the right? See how that line kind of gets skewed? It's really interesting, the landscape that we are heading into, and I don't think 99% of the population understands how dangerous and dire of a situation we are with the embedded AI systems and where it's going, what they're trying to build, the people actually building the systems, what they're talking about, what their end goal is of what they want. Essentially, they want to make us all irrelevant. They want to replace 60% of the workforce. They want all automated cars that are all subscription-based, and you never own anything. Everything's a subscription. Kind of like all the streaming platforms now. Remember when you used to buy a movie and you would just own it? Nobody has that anymore. Think about how much money you're spending now just to kind of consume entertainment and the way the entertainment industry has changed. Even the music industry has drastically changed a lot too. And so all of these things, as they're evolving to get us out of any type of real ownership. Kind of like taxes on your property taxes, which they just keep raising them and raising them. They keep raising your electric bill. I mean, you guys, what is going on? Are we that stupid and that asleep? Well, I would say some of us are. You know, you have the protesters in Portland that firebombed that Ice Cube bus just because it said ice on it. They were so triggered. They're just like, we got to blow it up. It says ice on it. Not even thinking for a fact that has nothing to do with anything. But, you know, maybe it's just a stunt. Who knows? Who really knows what's going on? Who really knows? But what I do know is what the FBI is telling us in regards to the Charlie Kirk assassination is all completely on its face bullcrap. Kind of like the Jason Aldean concert in Vegas, kind of like 9/11, kind of like the Oklahoma City bombing, and on and on and on and on. So we may never actually find out the real answers. And there's this old argument that the elitists and the government workers and the FBI and Department of Homeland Security people and all these people, they just don't think that we can handle the truth. And so they feel that they need to continue to lie to us to protect us because we can't handle it. Yet, they will allow billions and billions of views of Charlie Kirk's assassination get streamed on every platform with no censorship all over the internet. We can handle that. But we can't handle on who actually did it and what government organization or nonprofit was actually behind it. So here's a theory that's blowing up on the internet, and it's really fascinating. And I highly encourage you guys to check out some of this stuff. I've posted a ton on my X page about this. And this is the one theory that I've heard thus far that literally makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. So I'm in the entertainment world and the entertainment thing. Like, we've done a ton of different broadcast shows. We've done a ton of different live events. We've done, concerts and everything else. So I'm very familiar in this space. Well, as things evolved, there's something called the DJI. It's a wireless lapel, kind of like a Bluetooth microphone that you're able to link up with a camera. Because there's a couple of interesting questions that we're all asking now and trying to find out. So this is like a square device. It's got a magnetic piece on it to where you put it under your shirt. What this does is that allows the audio from your voice when you're talking to transmit wirelessly to another pack that attaches to the camera, and then it dumps like perfect audio. That's how you get such good production and everything else. And a lot of you guys are asking, well, wait, he had a microphone. Yes, he had a microphone. Let me explain. Capturing the audio from a microphone versus the wireless lapel, it complicates the production because now you have to pull the audio from the audio board and then dump that into the camera system, in which TP USA had their own infrastructure for their recording a video. And it's a lot easier just to slap the lapel on, capture the data straight to the recording, and then the microphone is completely separate. And usually you'll get better audio that way, and it's cleaner, and you don't have to intertwine between the industries, because the video industry and the audio industry are two different things. So the camera guy's probably like, yeah, here's the wireless pack, and then here's your microphone for the actual physical audience. So it just kind of keeps things clean. And you can see a different remnant in there of the fact that he had that on, because throughout the day, while he was talking, he would adjust this thing that was underneath his shirt. Okay, and so this continues. Think about this. Remember when Israel was bragging about the remote detonated pagers that they planted on all the Hamas terrorists, and then they activated them all, and they were like blowing up terrorists with these remote pagers? Okay, you see where I'm going with this? So the wireless lapel body pack that he potentially had on, and this kind of goes in tandem with the theory that's being asked and the questions being asked right now, and it also makes sense in regards to what we saw. So let's first break out like what we saw. When we saw the alleged bullet go into Charlie Kirk, remember his shirt blew outward? And it was almost like a small explosion happened underneath his shirt. And it was really odd, considering the centrifugal force of a bullet. If he was hit in the front, it wouldn't blow out your shirt like that, even if you were shot in the stomach. Your shirt would not blow out like that. It's really weird. It's actually, in regards to physics, to me, now maybe I'm wrong. Somebody please prove me wrong. You can write me, JM at Noncompliant America. I'm happy to, hear, whatever you think. But usually the energy is going one direction. It's not going to blow back immediately upon impact. So if you watch again, you can see his shirt puff out. And supposedly there's some video of some smoke coming out the right side of his neck, kind of on that side, the opposite side where the exit wound was. I don't think that was an entry wound, by the way. I don't care if the FBI says. But think about this. There was a remote body pack, a pager-esque type device, which could have easily been, hidden in a wireless lapel type body pack system. It's a little square device. It looks like a pager. And that could have easily been remotely triggered, which then would have also explained the lack of blood splatter on the back of the white background that was directly behind him. But it also explains some different interesting behavior of the security guards that are surrounding him. Stu Peters posted the other day, he actually found the supposed individual that activated the trigger because it works perfectly in time with the actual explosion. Now, this is just the theory, and it's being overturned and explored. But to me, looking at this, considering everything and all the facts that have been laid out to us, this one seems to be the one that makes the most sense. Because it also makes sense how the cameraman grabbed the behind the camera SD card and put it in his pocket immediately after Charlie got hauled off, which I think is really strange. Another thing that's really strange, especially given that it was Charlie's organization and now his wife is taking over, you would think with all the video footage that they have, all the HD, 4K, 6K, 8K film that they had around. Why hasn't TPUSA released any of that
Me and my
footage
buddy,
to the public?
we making all of this
You don't
money.
have to ask for permission to do
I
it.
know it's rude to be
Just do it.
bragging.
I say we
They never catching
demand
us
that footage and
lagging.
find
Me
out.
and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
All right, welcome back. Fourth segment. I wish I had more time to kind of dive into this stuff because we're going pretty quick and this show goes pretty quick. Super interesting, though, because it's a very interesting theory in regards to, what could have potentially happened, but also it would explain a lot in regards to why the FBI is fumbling so hard. Because if it wasn't a lone gunman, some radical transgender shooter that was radicalized by Charlie Kirk, even though there was no real history of him actually being radicalized in that way. Apparently there was a furry boyfriend that he had, this, that, and the other, which we don't really hear much about him. We don't really hear much about any of the actual things that we would want to hear about this individual that, seemed pretty normal. He was at Dairy Queen a couple hours later getting some chicken strips. Candace released that photo too. And so it's just really interesting. So if there was a patsy of all patsies that could be a potential patsy, this Tyler Robinson guy definitely seems like one. And the better question is why don't they want us to know? Cash Patel vouches for transparency, and Dan Bongino vouches to have ultimate transparency. Yet they do the exact opposite because their base is demanding this and they're ignoring it. So that's super interesting, don't you think? I think it's interesting. So we're going to dive into more of this as the weeks go on. We are not going to stop. Candace is not going to stop. She's doing an incredible job. And we need to support her and make sure to support her. So kind of to end this thing off, I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on and what Trump has planned for Portland and how this is going to drastically help our state. And as you know, 6 months ago, I was talking about, once Trump got in, he had some other things that he had to take care of. But I planned and anticipated that he would be, by the end of summer, middle of summer, he would start putting his pressures on these blue states, such as Oregon. And so we can't give up hope because this just came out in the Wall Street Journal, and this is top news today. Trump says that he's ordering troops to Portland on the escalation of domestic use of the military. So this is them trying to whitewash the fact that Trump is literally using the military to go and help the ICE agents. Because as you know, the Ice Cube just got his stuff firebombed. That's not a civil society. It's not a normal thing. But he's sending troops to go help, which I think in tandem is going to work with the Antifa groups as well. Because once you deem a specific organization like Antifa, which the head of it is in Portland, as a domestic terrorist organization, they're able to roll out everything. Why do you think Russiagate was such a nightmare for a bunch of different people? And all the illegal spying and illegal actions, everything else, because they had to have the justification to be able to activate these military branches within the United States. And so now Trump is using that same type of apparatus to go after a real terrorist organization such as Antifa and uproot their organization. And who knows how far that's going to go? Who knows how effective it's going to be? But it's a step in the right direction. And more importantly, it's out in the open now. No longer can these creeps hide and linger in the shadows. They're not going to be harassing people. It'd be interesting to see what's actually happening in McMinnville today. I wish I had somebody on the ground right now to where we could be reporting it with how that's going at the Air Museum that help us. the Aviation Museum, that place is so beautiful and it's nice, and there's volunteers that work there. And if you haven't taken your kids there, it's really cool to see these old B-2 bombers and these old planes and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Plus, the water park that they have there that's indoor, it's amazing. So Trump wrote this on Saturday at the request of the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. I'm directing Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. It's interesting that they use other domestic terrorists. And because I think this is in tandem with the cartels and their organizations and how they operate, they have teamed up and they're funneling either information, money, operation, tactics into Antifa because that helps them. When there's more chaos going around and everybody's more in fear, this is the climate that the Democrats love because they're all about corruption. They love operating in the shadows. They love operating in the gray. He also added that I'm authorizing full force if necessary. The line about using full force had Trump critics questioning exactly what that meant. What do you mean that's what it meant? Isn't this a good thing? Isn't this a great thing? Isn't this a great thing? I think it is. You know, it's hitting two birds with one stone. Going after the Antifa groups, plus giving the ICE agents the cover that they need to actually do their job. Because these sanctuary cities are harboring criminals. Not just the people that are here illegally, but actual criminals that are also here illegally and operating as such. And yeah, we can criticize him on the Epstein files. We can criticize not going after the Charlie Kirk thing and they're trying to cement the story of the lone gunman story into history and move on from it. But we're not moving on from it. But this is a very, very good thing. We got to get behind this. We have to get support and support our president for doing what we had mandated him to do. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, claimed that the left was carrying out a campaign of terrorism. Well, no crap. He posted on X Friday, we're witnessing domestic terrorist sedition against the federal government and announced the dispatch of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. In addition to Attorney General Pam Bondi, I would say past Attorney General, because I don't think she's going to be around very much longer. She wrote, at my direction, I'm deploying DOJ agents to ICE facilities and wherever ICE comes under siege. Safeguard federal agents to protect federal property and immediately arrest all individuals engaging in any federal crime, pursuant to President Trump's recent executive action. So that is a great, great, great thing. The cavalry's coming, folks. Are you going to sit on the couch and just eat popcorn like the QAnon people? Or are you going to start getting more involved? Now, some ways that you can get involved, obviously, you can write your congressional candidates. You can write your governor. You know, I know somebody who wrote the governor and she actually got a response back. Interestingly enough, she works for the state. She sent the email on her personal email. The person that responded to her work email. Yeah, it's a little bit fishy, isn't it? They actually looked her up in the state database and responded to her work email to kind of intimidate her, send her a message. Is that the kind of government we want operating? Is that the kind of people that we want to allow to make decisions for our lives? Predator groups that have captured our current government system? The answer is no. And the time is now to get behind this Trump administration and actually put forth effort in your day-to-day life. And even the simplest thing to do is to continue to ask questions and not toe the line with these public narratives. It's very important to do. Taking back that independence, saying no to things that don't pass the sniff test. I'm Joshua Michael, Noncompliant America. Thank you very much for listening. Follow me on X at noncompliantAF, and we'll see you next week.
Something you got to feel. While clutching to what you thought was real. Kicking at a dead horse pleases you. No way of showing